Darius the Great, an Achaemenid king, established the elite military unit called the Immortals to prevent rebellion within his diverse army. Comprising both Median and Persian soldiers, the Immortals played a crucial role in Darius's victories, including the Battle of Lade. Additionally, Darius oversaw the construction of the Royal Road, a vital route for messengers. Later, during the Battle of Marathon, Greek forces defeated the Immortals using an innovative strategy by Miltiades. Sadly, Darius's plans for further conquests were cut short due to illness, and he passed away at the age of 63. Darius the Great established a military force known as the Immortals. The Immortals were a part of the Achaemenid army. However, the question arises, what were the differences between the Achaemenid army and the Immortals? There were significant differences between them. The Immortals were composed of Median and Persian soldiers, and only they had the privilege of being part of the Immortals. In contrast, the Achaemenid army was a vast military force. In the Achaemenid army, there were soldiers from various regions, including Indians, Scythians, Phoenicians, and Lydians. The Achaemenid army was comprised of diverse peoples and nations. However, many of these armed forces occasionally declared independence and engaged in conflict with loyal forces to the king. To prevent such incidents and to have a restraining force against these independence-seeking tendencies, Darius the Great decided to establish the Immortals. The Persian and Median forces in the Immortals were completely loyal to King Darius and were never disloyal. Members of the Immortals enjoyed higher wages and benefits compared to other soldiers. The living conditions for the Immortals were much better than those of other segments of society. However, not everyone could become a member of the Immortals. On the other hand, since the living conditions for the Immortals were better, when a soldier from the Immortals retired or was no longer fit for service, they would step aside and have their own sons take their place. This arrangement helped keep these positions within their families. If an outsider were to take these positions, they could not have that privilege, and other positions did not compare to the Immortals. The military performance of the Immortals was extraordinary. These forces were highly efficient and underwent very rigorous and intensive training. Their primary duty was to break the enemy's formation. The enemy's army, when faced with the Immortals, had a formation with a central core. This central core was intended to strike at the heart of the Achaemenid forces, but within the Achaemenid army, the Immortals held this central position. This made the central part of the Achaemenid forces extraordinarily powerful. This had both a positive and a negative aspect. The positive aspect was that they were highly successful in forward assaults in battles with their enemies. However, their flanks were weak and often quickly crumbled. This was considered their weakness, which is why the Immortals couldn't advance effectively. The commanders of the Immortals had the closest relationship with Darius the Great and held confidential meetings. Most of the operations of the Immortals were under Darius the Great's supervision. In many military campaigns, the Immortals accompanied Darius the Great. They had both cavalry and infantry units, and some units were equipped with chariots. They had access to all available weapons, which was one of Darius the Great's measures to strengthen and ensure the loyalty of his armed forces. After these events, Darius the Great initiated another project that many believe to be the world's first international highway. This highway extended approximately 2,600 kilometers from Susa to Sardis. Sardis was the capital of Lydia. It ran through what is modern-day western Turkey and was the royal road or the caravan route that connected Pasargadae to Persepolis, Susa, and other regions of the Persian Empire. Since then, it has become known as the Royal Road. According to historians, The royal road was equipped with many facilities, despite its considerable length. Along the entire route, various amenities were available, such as postal stations. There were military outposts and numerous caravanserais. If a messenger intended to traverse the entire length of the royal road, there were stations every 24 kilometers where they could change their horse, providing fresh mounts and enabling them to continue their journey without delay to ensure the prompt delivery of the king's message. Darius the Great also had a formidable naval power. The Persian navy, especially during Darius's reign, was one of the most powerful ancient naval forces in the world, equipped with the largest and most potent warships of its time. Up until 499 BCE, the situation in the land of the Achaemenids was generally peaceful. However, in 499 BCE, the westernmost region of the Achaemenid Empire became unstable, and signs of unrest were evident. Greeks residing in the area of Sardis initiated rebellion and sought instructions from Greek city-states like Athens and Eretria. In this region, some forces supported the Sardian Greeks, creating a major revolt. They besieged the city, killed its inhabitants, and set it on fire, while Greek forces also made their presence known in the western regions of the Achaemenid Empire. When Darius the Great received this news, he became extremely angry and ordered the Achaemenid forces to prepare for deployment. The Achaemenid army was sent to the western region to quell all these disturbances and bring stability to the area. The Achaemenid forces entered the region of Sardis, and a 5-year-long battle between the Iranians and the Greeks unfolded in that area. After these 5 years, the Greek forces suffered a very tough defeat. The region was wrested from their control, becoming secure again under the banner of the Achaemenids. One of the hardest battles during this conflict was the Battle of Lade. In the course of this battle, the Greek navy was defeated. Subsequently, the Achaemenid forces moved against the rebels in the city of Miletus, where one of the most terrible suppressions took place, resulting in the deaths of a considerable number of people. The Greek forces retreated and entered the city of Athens and the region of Eretria. They were no longer a threat in that area. This military campaign not only made the western region considerably secure but also expanded the Achaemenid territories. After these victories, the Achaemenids were able to regain control of the western Anatolian regions and islands in the Aegean and Mediterranean seas, including the island of Cyprus. In 492 BCE, Darius the Great sent messengers to all Greek city-states, demanding their submission and obedience to his rule, with the condition that they would not provoke unrest in the western regions of the Achaemenid Empire. All the Greek city-states agreed to these terms, except for 2, which were Athens and Sparta. The Spartans, in particular, took actions that angered Darius. They murdered the envoy who was sent by Darius the Great and threw him in a well. Darius ordered his troops to march against Athens and Sparta and teach them a lesson. The Achaemenid army was led by Mardonius, who was Darius' son-in-law. Mardonius's mission was to march into the western regions, take control of Macedonia, and then move towards Athens to deliver the message from King Darius. Mardonius carried out a successful military campaign. He secured the shores of the Aegean Sea and entered Macedonia. There, he battled with the Greek forces of Macedonia, defeating them, and thus, Macedonia fell under the control of the Achaemenid army. The next area on their route was Athens. The forces of Mardonius boarded their ships, but they encountered a severe storm with rough seas. The storm was so intense that many of the Achaemenid ships were lost at sea, and advancing further was impossible. Seeing these conditions, Mardonius ordered his troops to retreat and the ships to abandon the attempt to reach Athens. The Achaemenid forces managed to save their own ships and left the area. This campaign did not lead to a victory at Athens but was successful in capturing Macedonia. After these events, Darius the Great prepared to rebuild his army, and in 490 BCE, he ordered two of his loyal companions, Artaphernes and Datis, to launch an attack on Greece. Datis and Artaphernes, along with Darius's soldiers, first captured the islands of Naxos and Delos. Then, they headed towards Eretria and Athens. When the Athenians learned that Naxos and Delos had fallen to the Achaemenid forces, they realized that it was only a matter of time before they had to confront these same soldiers on their soil. Therefore, they began to prepare for the defense of their city. The Athenian forces were not numerous, and their numbers were fewer than the Achaemenid troops. Therefore, they sent a messenger to the Spartans, requesting assistance. The Spartans agreed to help, but at that time, their forces were engaged in the midst of an important religious celebration. They announced that when the festival was over, their troops would march to Athens to aid them. However, the time frame was not sufficient for the Athenian forces because the Achaemenid forces had already reached Eretria during this period. In the region of Eretria, a conflict between the Achaemenids and the Greeks began. During this battle, the Achaemenids emerged victorious, and Eretria fell completely under their control. Nevertheless, the Achaemenids had another agenda in Eretria. They were about to seek revenge. 9 years earlier, the Eretrians had aided the Athenians in burning down the city of Sardis, and now it was time for retaliation. As a response to this past event, the Achaemenid forces set fire to the city of Eretria, completely destroying it. With no further resistance, the next target was undoubtedly Athens. Iranian ships reached the shores of Attica and established a camp in the city of Marathon, which was approximately 40 kilometers from Athens. Almost simultaneously, news reached the Athenians that the Iranians were disembarking from their ships in Marathon. The intelligent strategy proposed by Miltiades, a prominent Athenian aristocrat, marked a turning point in ancient warfare. He was well informed about the structure of the Achaemenid forces and their formation. Recognizing the division of Achaemenid troops into 3 segments with the Immortals at the center, he decided to mirror this formation. Miltiades, therefore, ordered the Athenian forces to adopt a formation that mirrored the Achaemenids. In the center, he stationed less experienced troops, those not as well versed in combat. On the flanks, he placed the most experienced and strongest Athenian soldiers who would be capable of breaking through the Achaemenid lines. This innovative tactic gave the Athenians an advantage. When the Achaemenids advanced, the Athenian flanks would hold their ground, while the less experienced center troops would give way, drawing the Achaemenid forces further into the gap. Once the Achaemenids were deeply committed to the center of the battle, the Athenian flanks would close in, surrounding the Achaemenid Immortals and turning the tide of the battle. The tactical wisdom displayed by Miltiades and his ability to adapt to the terrain and enemy tactics were essential elements in the Battle of Marathon's success. By choosing a battlefield where the narrow plain of Marathon constrained the Achaemenid advance, he made it nearly impossible for the Achaemenid forces to exploit their numerical superiority. Moreover, the Athenians' preemptive attack strategy disrupted the precision of the Persian archers. The rapid advance of the Greek forces denied the Persian archers the time they needed to aim accurately and fire their arrows, rendering them less effective. The Athenian general Callimachus effectively implemented these tactics, and the Athenian hoplites advanced on the Immortals' guard. The Athenian forces met the Achaemenid forces in the center, and the well-organized Greek phalanx, with their heavy armor and shields, successfully withstood the Achaemenid attacks. The Persian Immortals' charge against the Greek center, while initially successful, was met with a resolute defense from the Greek hoplites. The Greek decision to quickly close the gap and engage in hand-to-hand combat neutralized the Persian archers, who relied on long-range shooting. The terrain of the narrow plain of Marathon further played a crucial role in inhibiting Persian maneuvers and preventing their numerical advantage from being exploited effectively. The Battle of Marathon, indeed, marked a significant turning point in the perception of Persian invincibility. The defeat of the Persians in Marathon had a profound impact on both Greek and Persian perspectives. For the Greeks, it served as a morale boost and a testament to the effectiveness of their hoplite phalanx formation. For the Persians, the loss at Marathon was a rare defeat and signaled that their military might was not unassailable. The Battle of Marathon is not only a pivotal historical event but also a symbol of the courage and resolve of the Athenian hoplites who successfully defended their city against a formidable enemy. It's worth noting that the legend of the Marathon Run, where a messenger ran from the battlefield to Athens to deliver the news of the victory, is another aspect of the battle that has left a lasting cultural impact. The tale is largely attributed to the Greek historian Herodotus. The essence of the story is that a messenger, typically known as Phidippides, was dispatched to carry news of the victory at Marathon to Athens. He is said to have run hundreds of kilometers from Marathon to Athens without stopping and delivered the message before collapsing and dying. Historians debate whether Herodotus's story of the Marathon Run is entirely factual, as his writings often incorporate myth and legend, potentially embellishing or mythologizing the event over time. After Iran's defeat in this war, Darius the Great attempted to rebuild the army and plan another attack on Greece. However, following a prolonged illness, he passed away in the year 486 BCE at the age of 63. Darius the Great is buried in the heart of Mount Behistun, in Nakhcha Rostam, in Pars. Today, it is considered one of the major tourist attractions for Iranians. Thousands of people travel to Fars every year to visit this mausoleum. According to the will of Darius the Great, his son, Xerxes I, ascended to the throne. Xerxes became king in 486 BCE and ascended to the throne. In the mausoleum of Darius, prominent reliefs are found, known as the Rostam reliefs, which are related to three significant periods in ancient history. The Elamites, Achaemenids, and even the Sasanians paid attention to this site from 1200 to 625 BCE. Furthermore, one can observe prominent reliefs portraying significant events from the Sasanian period in this location. If you enjoyed this video, do not forget to like it, and share it with your friends. Do not hesitate to provide your view regarding this video by putting your comments below. Your comments would help us to improve our work, and also, they help us to take your views into account for the future topics that we select. Furthermore, you can subscribe to our channel to become aware of our new videos.